Good morning, everybody. Thank you for dealing with the rain and getting here in a timely fashion. Thank you for all getting here on time. Well, everyone probably knows Buzz Mills from last year's contested gubernatorial race. Prior to entering the world of politics, Mr. Mills had a long history and he served our country with the U.S. Marine Corps. So can we give him a round of applause for serving our country well? After he served our country, he went on to become a businessman. And while he was back east, he helped several major bridge building projects along the East Coast before entering the rapidly expanding telecommunications industry. He helped develop business serving the land mobile and maritime communications requirements in the Mid-Atlantic region. Before the advent of cell phones, Mr. Mills was in the mobile telephone and radio paging industries in the Mid-Atlantic region. And with the initiation of the cellular industry, Buzz continued his career in this rapidly growing industry. However, as a native of West Texas, he spent decades looking for a way to bring himself back to the West. In 1999, he acquired Gunsight up in Yavapai County, and he and his lovely wife, Sonia, who's here today, moved back to our great state of Arizona. As many of you know, Gunsight has grown both in physical size and in stature with the NRA. And Mr. Mills is actually on the NRA as, I believe, the board of directors. Can you guys all give me a warm welcome with Buzz and bring him up to the podium?
Well, how to clear the room. Run along and get out of here. Thank you so much, Sean. It's a great pleasure to be here. I recognize a lot of you folks from when I was here before. Thank you for I'll get this thing here right now. Thank you for the dream to be abused again. Well, I'll try not to. I got up this morning and I was surprised. You know, up in our part of Arizona, very similar to what you have down here. We have about 375 days of sunshine every year, so this is one of the days that didn't make it. But we need this. I got an email this morning from one of the gals on the ranch, and it was some snow. So I know I have 6 or 8 inches of snow up there. I came down last night, anticipating in you know, being wary of the forecast. I didn't want to be late. Sean had been so good about convincing me that I needed to come down here and talk to you all this morning. But it's springtime, and you know, it's a renewal of just about everything. Up where we are, we really have a good solid 4 seasons, and everything gets killed off. All the germs and bugs and critters get killed off in the wintertime, and now we've got the blooms and the blossoms and everything coming back. We even got a rattlesnakes back. You know, we're up to 3 this year so far. Well, on the ranch, we're trying to beat our record from '09 where we got 42. So we have plenty of them up there because we don't have near as many people. Brought the dogs down with me last night. We got 2 Cocker Spaniels. So they're running around in the condo over here, and they don't understand why we have 5,000 people live within 100 yards of us, you know. Our closest neighbor on the ranch is 2.5 miles. So that works out pretty good for us. Anyway, springtime, it's even springtime in America. I heard on the news last night that Bonnier got a $40 billion cut, which doesn't amount a whole lot out of triggers, but that's more cut than anybody else has been able to get in a long time. So it's the first step, baby step down the road. Big hand for the Republicans and the Conservatives in the House. They're doing what we sent them up there to do. You know, after we've haven't had a good budget in a few years. In fact, it's so irresponsible they haven't put forth a budget for this fiscal year yet. And now we're coming up on the next one. They were afraid to do it, you know, because it had to get elected in November. It didn't help them much. But anyway, responsibility is taking hold across America. And I am just so enthusiastic when I turn on the news and I see things like Wisconsin going on. You got Wisconsin, Ohio, Indiana, New Jersey, Virginia, Florida, South Carolina, Louisiana. you know, we've elected some adults, we've got rid of the adolescent spending spree, and it looks like we're moving in the right direction. So, spring again. You know, let's hope that moves west. They could use some of that action in California. Our legislature here is even threatening to get balance the budget, which is a good thing. So, you know, we're moving in the right direction. We're taking those states back. And these states, these Midwest states we just talked about, you know, they're going to determine the election in 2012. Those are the swing states, and that's, I am greatly encouraged. But history repeats itself. I'm thinking of the guys back in the Revolution, and they said, no taxation without representation. They thought that was bad. They ought to see it with representation. But 10 days from now is the 19th. 10 days from now is the 19th. The 19th is Patriots Day. That's the day set aside to recognize the shot heard around the world, at Lexington and Concord. That's when it all began, was 10 days from now. If you remember back, my grandchildren think I'll remember back, last month, Patrick Henry spoke at St. John's Church in Richmond. And he said, this is coming, guys. And what you need to do, every county in Virginia needs to raise a company of infantry or a company of cavalry. And he saw it coming, and here it is. So on the 19th, Paul Revere gets credit for it, but he didn't really do it. A guy named Billy Dawes made the ride, but Billy didn't think of it. Now listen, my children, you shall hear the midnight ride. Billy Dawes did it. Besides, you wouldn't be buying pots and pans, Billy Dawes. But that's another story. So he did that on the evening of the 18th, all across Massachusetts colony. And on the 19th, the governor sent 700 troops under Lieutenant Colonel Francis Smith to go to Lexington and Concord. I'll tell you what he sent them out there to do in a moment. Well, they got to Lexington, and on the green there was Captain John Parker, and he had about 40 of our guys. And nobody knows who fired that shot that was heard around the world that day. Nobody knows, because you had about 40 Minutemen. You had 700 of the finest soldiers the world had ever seen, the most powerful army on the planet. And you had a lot of spectators. The 40 guys that came out of the tavern, with, you know, first light in the morning, where else would they be? In the tavern, out on the green to meet the British soldiers, which I have to go back to my Marine Corps heritage, because later that same year on November the 11th, we're talking April the 19th, on November the 11th, in the Sun Tavern in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that's where the Marine Corps was formed, was in the tavern. So that probably explains a lot of things about a lot of anyway, there were some shots fired, a little skirmish. The Minutemen retired, and Lieutenant Colonel Smith headed on for Concord. He thought, well, that was it. These colors were pretty easy. We look forward to a skirmish at Concord. Well, they didn't work out quite that way. They got to Concord, and we had 500 of our guys there. So we had 500 guys there. We had 700 soldiers from the most badass army in the world, all right? And here we had just a bunch of hillbillies, rednecks, up against them. And when the smoke cleared, they were headed back for Boston. And the British governor had sent 1,000 troops to help them get back to Boston. We harassed them all the way back. But here's the score. Here's the proof of the pudding. U.S. killed in action, 49. UK, 73. Wounded, we had 39, they had 174. We had 5 missing, and they had 53. Their 53 probably defected for the right cause. So that, by any way you measure it, that was a win. That was a win for America. That was in the spring, 236 years ago. And here we are in Congress, starting out with a little win, and in the spring, and we're moving forward. Let's hope that we do as good a job this time as we did then. But what this brings us to, what this is all about, the British governor was afraid of these folks. He was afraid of these folks. They were armed. They had to be armed. They'd been fighting the French and the Indians for years. They had all kinds of skirmishes, and they had to eat. You know, Safeway wasn't down the block. There wasn't fries. You know, so they had to be armed. They had to be armed to eat, and then they had all these desperados, which has been with us forever. So they sent the troops to collect the arms. They were going to the magazine at Lexington, going to the magazine at Concord to collect the arms the colonists had stockpiled there that they used every day. And hence brings us to the Second Amendment. What they called those people back then were subjects, because they were subjugated, because they wanted to keep them unarmed. And that's not where we want to be. So that brings us to the Second Amendment. Now, a few years later, these same colonists penned the founding documents, and in there they said we have a right, God-given right, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Think about that. Life, the first freedom. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, if you can't defend your life, you don't have any guarantee of life. And then they could not get the Constitution approved because it did not protect the citizens. So then we had the Bill of Rights. And they wrote the Bill of Rights, which really, that's a misnomer. It shouldn't be the Bill of Rights. It ought to be the Bill of Restrictions. Your rights are God-given. They predate the Constitution. They predate the Magna Carta. They predate, your rights predate every kind of document of government there is out there. All this was a guarantee, a recognition, if you will, that you have the right to speak, religion, the Second Amendment, the right to self-defense, which ties back to the founding documents and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So it's a bill of restrictions on the government, is what it is. That is what the Bill of Rights is, the Second Amendment is. It restricts the government from restricting you. That's why it says, shall not be infringed. That's guaranteeing you a pre-existing right. So down to today, I serve on the NRA Board of Directors. I serve on the foundation of the NRA. Then that is the 501c3 portion. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. How many of y'all have heard of the Friends dinners that we have? We have them all over the state. Right now, the Friends dinners, April 22nd, we have one in Prescott, and they're on the calendar. If you go to NRA.org, right now there's over 20 different Friends dinners across Arizona, from Sierra Vista all the way to Kingman, and from New Mexico to California and Nevada. There are 12 or 20 differences. What this is the 501c3. You come in and have a dinner, they have a silent auction, they have a conventional auction for firearms and all sorts of hunting, trapping, fishing equipment, that sort of thing. And 85%, fully 85% of the money that we take in from this goes to youth programs. The next largest percentage goes to women's programs, Women on Target. We are the largest trainer of police officers in America. A lot of money goes to training. If you stop and think about it a minute, you know, if you think about the police department, everybody says, oh yeah, New York, we got 42,000 police officers. Well, you know, that's more than armies of 2 or 3 small countries. And then but then it goes down. The average police department in America is less than 20 police officers. They don't have any money. They're just like Arizona and everybody else. They don't have any money. So their training is done by NRA. NRA trainers, we have over 72,000 certificated, certified NRA trainers in America. And we provide a lot of this training for most all of these police departments. We also are involved in competitive shooting. And as I said, 86% of our money goes for children's activities, training, youth hunter programs. Eddie Eagle is a safety program up in Prescott. We gave $15,000 out of this fund to the Prescott Police Department last year for their Eddie Eagle program. It just goes on and on. Since 1992, when the foundation was started, we we have awarded more than 24,000 grants across America, $165 million that have gone out. As I said, 85% of that goes to children. So what we're doing there is we're keeping young people safe, and particularly with our Eddie Eagle program, that works real well. Funny story about my granddaughter. I can't help myself. She's 10 years old, so she's in the 5th grade. Well, she lives in Richmond. My daughter lives in Richmond, and they had a school day trip, you know. So they went to a Civil War foundry, and they're going through the foundry, and they had some Civil War reenactors there, and they handed out some of these young people wooden look-like firearms, you know, like the great big long firearms that they had back in the Civil War days, and so they gave them to them, and my granddaughter came over to my daughter when it was just about over, and she said, "Mom, these people don't know what they're doing. They're all running around here with their finger on the trigger. Guns like we don't do that." So that's one of our we only have 4 firearm safety rules up there. But a 10-year-old, the point is the 10-year-old got the message of how to be safe around a firearm, and she was offended that these other people didn't, you know. So despite the shape of our economy, last year in 2010, we awarded over 3,000 grants and $43 million, and we had a tremendous amount of that here in Arizona. I have the figures for Yavapai County. As I said, we had 15,000 for Eddie Eagle at the Prescott Police. The Prescott Sportsman's Club got 15,000. We put 5,000 in the Joe Foss Institute, which is big in children's education as well. 25,000 went to the Boy Scouts, 12,000 to Junior ROTC, and 15,000 to Women on Target. Like numbers everywhere across Arizona. This is going on in our community. So I would urge you to get out here and help us keep our young people safe, support our education and training and safety program. You can go to NRA.org and you can find out where these dinners are. Get out there and support your community. If you're so disposed, we'd love to have you get more interested, get more involved. We have all the state planners are aware of the programs that NRA has and the vehicle to support the NRA through planned giving. Now, on April the 22nd, we're having in Prescott, we're having our NRA Friends Dinner. So if you don't want to support one down here, you can come up and give us one. But we'll be glad to put it in our community up there. So help us celebrate this. This is the 140th anniversary this year of the NRA, which was formed in 1871 by Union General. That's one of those guys. I'm from the South. The Union General Burnside formed the NRA. Now, on the 29th of April, if you're not doing anything else, jump on the plane and come up to Pittsburgh. We're having the NRA annual meeting of members up there. We're going to have a whole bunch of folks there. We're going to have a big party. Mike Huckabee's going to be there. Jeff Foxworth is going to be there. Tom Selleck, Ted Nugent, on, and Sonny. So I'll be there too, but Sonny's the big attraction. So if you get a chance, go to NRA.org, look at that, see what we're doing in your community right here, and let us have your support. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer for you. Thank you so much for having us here with you today. It's a real pleasure to be here, in spite of the rain.
My name's Janet Hyatt, and I've heard about the NRA, but I've gotten several disturbing pieces of mail about the small arms treaty that is trying to be negotiated through the UN. And so I took myself up to Scottsdale Gun Club on North Side
Right.
and asked them if they had heard anything about this, and they said they had never heard anything about it, but, I mean, basically what this treaty says is that we don't get, it takes precedence over the Constitution, and he said that's impossible. So I just thought I'd ask if you've heard about it, and what's the NRA doing about it, or am I just throw that mail away?
Janet, just throw it away. I've been hearing about it for years, and here's what's going on. You know, you have people like George Soros and a lot of these far left-wing nutcakes. That's what they call people like me. So anyway, but what they're trying to do is they want to bring the U.S. under global regulation. We have a president that's been trying to do that. He's citizen of the world, not American. No, I'm proud to be an American. I fought for America, and I know what America is. So we're not going to have any of that. Our Constitution is the supreme law of the land. These people have been trying to bring this on for years and years and years. They have a sympathetic administration now, but it's still not going to go anywhere. We're still not going to give up our sovereignty. You know, if they do, we're going to end up back out there on the 19th of April in Lexington and Trump. Yes, ma'am.
As a former shooter, I shot competitively in a military traveling team, so I'm certainly not opposed to the use and the possession of guns. What concerns me is that we seem to have taken that right, which I believe that we must have the right to own, and seem to now think that that means that we have, you're quoting the Constitution, that means that there's no limits. Let's think hard and fast where that we draw the line, but there is a line. There's a line to where we want, the first thing was protection, you said it. The Constitution says we want to protect. My rights end when I start infringing on yours.
Is there a question?
Yes, I want to know where you think there is a line. I know what your organization believes, but do you believe there is a line? At what age?
You know, I'm just tickled that we got such a big tent, and we got room for everybody, you know? Yes, ma'am.
You talked about an Eagle program. Is that within the Boy Scouts or separate? It's something up there?
Oh, well, no, I was an Eagle Scout too when I was 14 years old. But no, this is a program, Eddie Eagle program, and it's carried out usually by local law enforcement organizations. And what we do in this program is we train children how to be safe. You know, if my child goes over to somebody else's home and there's a firearm there, then my child knows how to react to that. You know, leave the area, tell an adult, leave it alone. And so it's a very good program, very effective program, and it helps save lives. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious. I'm not a member of the National Rifle Association, but kind of interested in some of these meetings that you just brought up. But I'm thinking to address this woman's concerns, would not the National Rifle Association be the best place to be so that you can be part of the organization and influence the direction?
You know, we have 5 million members in the NRA, and I'm one of 75 members of the board of directors. And we have people from all walks of life. You know, we have governors in there, we have senators, we have congressmen, we have ministers, we have rabbis, all on the board of directors, and have law enforcement officers. We have a tremendous wide range of perspective, and we have about 47, 48 committees. I serve on several of those. I spend my time on advancement, which is, you know, we're securing the future, and in the finance area, legislative policy, ethics committees. These are the ones that I serve on, in addition to the foundation, which is really my passion, because we do so much work keeping children safe and teaching them the way that things ought to be done. I think you can get a tremendous amount of information there, and whether, you know, we have lots of people, we have hundreds of thousands of members who don't own firearms, but they think that the NRA does good work because we have a tremendous lobbying effort. All I told you about here today is our work that we do with children, because that's a primary interest to me. But we do a tremendous amount of lobbying work, and we do that in the state, and we do it on the federal level. You know, there are states where firearms are completely prohibited. There are cities like Chicago and New York where they're completely prohibited. So, you know, most every place has got some kind of prohibition. But we welcome, we look forward to, we search out those with different views that can help us look at the issues from different perspectives. Sean?
Can you tell us a little bit about Gunsight?
Oh, man, that's my passion. Yeah. Gunsight was founded in 1976. It's the world's largest and the world's oldest firearms training facility, privately owned firearms training facility. We have 2,100 acres up there. We have a full-time staff of 12 people. We have got an adjunct staff of 75 instructors that are all certified by Arizona Department of Public Safety to teach firearms. I've got full-time active duty military officers from captain to colonel. I've got full-time DPS officers, every law enforcement agency in the state of Arizona, a lot of them, Texas, Indiana, Colorado. And we train, what we do is we train law enforcement, military, and qualified civilians in all sorts of firearms, defensive, pistol, shotgun, rifle, carbine, and these sorts of things. We do, and every week, what is so gratifying about what I do, you just can't believe it. I get email, I get phone calls, I get letters from people that say, I wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for the training I got at Gunsight. And we do a fabulous job. We just had week before last, we had a centennial celebration for the world's most widely sold used pistol. Was adopted by the U.S. military on March the 29th, 1911. It's the 1911 Colt pistol, and we had 75 people there. We had TV there. We had the Wall Street Journal there. We had outdoor channel television, NRA television, several of the outdoor programs were there, and we had a big party. Colt sent a commemorative firearm out, and we auctioned that off. It was a $3,000 firearm. It was a great celebration. We had a great class. We had a lot of people that got some great training. And when you come to Gunsight, when you leave there, you have a life-changing experience. I tell people this all the time, and they just kind of poo-poo, no, that's not true. But Mike will tell you, he was there, and by Wednesday, he had an epiphany, and we moved ahead. It's just fabulous what we've been able to do. And I bought the place in 1999. As Sean said, I finally found a way to get back out west after leaving El Paso many decades ago. But that's what we do. Go to the website, www.gunsight.com, and take a look. If you have any questions, call me. I'll be glad to help you with it. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I have a comment about the lady's concern over there with the regulation. I understand the kind of concern, and I don't have gun answers myself, but if the NRA was not strong in what it's doing, there would be no match for all the left-wing bombardment to remove guns. And if the guns were removed, shortly after that. So the NRA is important in its stance.
It is, and if
And I
you
understand that concern too with guns, but
absolutely, here's the parallel. Here's the parallel, all right? Bonnier and the Conservatives started out and wanted 100 million. They got 40. So, yes, you know, maybe he was an extremist at 100, but maybe he's not at 40. So that's the way all of this works. All this legislation works and everything, is you start out all the way at one end and know that you're not going to end up with everything you want. So and we get a lot of that. We get a lot of negative press about the way we go about things. You know, one of the big things last year that the NRA got some negative press about was they were in the midst of a poker game last summer, and Harry Reid has always been a good Second Amendment guy, and so the word went around, well, the NRA is going to introduce Harry Reid, and I don't like him anymore, and all that sort of thing. But the NRA was trying to get some legislation done and didn't want to come out and say no to Harry Reid because he's an important guy about getting things through the Senate. So they couldn't come out and say, no, we're not going to introduce him. But as soon as they got past the legislation, then said, yeah, we're not going to endorse it. So a lot of it's a poker game, and a lot of it is bad press, and a lot of it is from one end of the spectrum, a lot of it's to the other. The bottom line is, as I said about April 1775, is if you don't have a firearm, you're a subject.